Workers' unions in Nigeria's aviation industry have suspended a nationwide industrial action following the memorandum of settlement reached between the workers and the Federal Ministry of Aviation, brokered by the Minister of Labour. Aviation workers' complaints before now include the non-implementation of the minimum wage consequential adjustments in the aviation parastatals since 2019 and the non-approval or release of the reviewed conditions of service in the parastatals, which has been going on for about 9 years. That's the crux of our discussion on aviation this week. Plus, 2 low-cost carriers in the United States merge. A warm welcome to Aviation This Week on Channels Television. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi. Let's fly.
Aviation unions in ARIC hold a rally supporting AMCON's divestment policy to float a new airline, NG Eagle. The aviation sector has experienced a significant level of upheaval and change over the past decade, mainly due to liberalization and the subsequent emergence of new airlines. This has had a considerable impact on employment and industrial relations in the industry. New airlines may not welcome union participation, but the associations and unions have had a long stake in the federal parastatals. Just recently, the unions announced an industry-wide strike over the non-implementation of the minimum wage consequential adjustment in the aviation parastatals since 2019 and the non-approval of the reviewed conditions of service in the parastatals, an issue that has been ongoing for about 9 years. To avert the planned industrial action, union representatives, the Minister of Aviation, among others, attend this meeting brokered by the Minister of Labour, where they discuss the 2 demands of the unions. The National President of the Air Transport Services Senior Staff Association of Nigeria opens the floor.
For every single day that passes by, a worker is exiting the service, and his package, exit package, would be calculated based on his last salary. Meanwhile, we have documents that should have improved on these salaries and other conditions of services lying with the relevant authorities for a long time. Achieve certain goals, what I would put in my own understanding as the immediate, short, and long term. Long term because I think it is high time we put an end to this protracted processes of getting approvals on negotiated agreements or collective bargaining, as it were. It does nothing but kill the morale of our workers. We are in a very high-tech sector. As I speak to you, sir, we are not paying ourselves well. The industry pays higher. And let me say, if we do not do something urgent, we are going to lose the qualified resources, the few qualified resources within our systems.
The Minister of Aviation also has his input.
I believe these are issues that are germane. These are issues that are worth discussing. But these are not issues that are backbreakers or that will even lead us to down tools. Having regard to the importance and centrality of civil aviation as a critical national security service and also very critical national social service. And luckily our acts have just been approved by both houses, and perhaps it's on the way for Mr. President to append his signature, and we have a brand new civil aviation.
When the meeting is over, The members note that the financial implication of the conditions of service for the Nigeria Meteorological Agency (NIMET) has been approved by the Presidential Committee on Salaries, except for hazard allowances, which would be reconsidered by the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission on a sectoral level, and approval for the COS immediately.
On our interview segment, we bring you excerpts from the Minister of Labour and Productivity, Dr. Chris Ngige, on the outcome of the meeting with aviation union members and the Ministry of Aviation.
The Ministry of Aviation is circulating circular on this consequential minimum wage to all her agencies and ask them to compute the consequential adjustment without any further delay. And in doing so, they have to clarify to them that the minimum wage took effect from 18th of April 2019, and the consequential adjustments done same year in October took a retroactive effect with that 18th of April. Therefore, this entails that everybody will get arrears, including those who have exited the system, who are retired, or gone on voluntary retirement, or were exited from the system. We agreed also that the AIB, the Accident Investigation Bureau, that had their workers outsourced to third-party contractors will also be affected in this gradation, irrespective of the fact that they didn't have such low-grade officers. But everybody is bound by the consequential adjustment, whether you have level 1 to 4 to 6 or not. We wanted to take a more proactive step to conclude the review of this condition of service. And to that extent, we asked that the financial implication of those agencies' condition of service should be looked into by the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission. We asked Salaries, Incomes and Wages and the Presidential Committee on Salary Secretariat, because it's domiciled in Budget Office of the Federation, to make sure that they are tabled for the next meeting that is coming up. I also noted that the condition of service for Nigerian Airspace Management Agency, NAMA, Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, require some establishment inputs. And the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation was directed to update the Ministry of the Aviation on this aspect of the condition of service by Friday, 11 February 2022, and a copy of the Federal Ministry of Labour, and a copy sent to the Federal Ministry of Labour and Employment. That the condition of service for the FAN, Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, has been released since 2019. But, however, there are some establishment issues which have been spotted and observed, and these issues should be forwarded to the Federal Ministry of Aviation by the management of FAN for transmission to the Office of Federal Service for Urgent Action. The management of FAN had assured the meeting that they will do this in the next 24 hours. So, under any other business, the heads of the association raised the issue of freedom of association. That is the right of workers to freely associate and form trade unions within the aviation industry, as stipulated in the Trade Union Act T14, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004. The Ministry of Labour and Employment promised to look into this issue as soon as possible, because it's one of the ILO principles at work. I think Section 40 of the Nigerian Constitution allows workers to freely associate and unionize themselves. Of 2022, that is 31st March 2022, the Aviation Ministry should ensure that all the necessary approvals, releases, and implementation of the reviewed condition of service for all the workers in the agency and of aviation is attained. In view of the above, the 7 days ultimatum issued for planned industrial action effective this morning of 8 February 2022 is hereby suspended.
The International Air Transport Association says its survey shows clearly that passengers want to use biometric identification if it expedites travel processes and wants to spend less time queuing. This is from its 2021 Global Passenger Survey. The report also states that before traffic ramps up, there is a window of opportunity to ensure a smooth return to travel post-pandemic and deliver long-term efficiency improvements for passengers, airlines, airports, and governments. So if the goal is to deliver long-term improvement for passengers, Nigeria may have to take a cue from this report as issues of corruption plagues Nigeria's premier international airport in Lagos. Here at this meeting, how the airport would overcome this challenge is the center of discussions.
Henceforth, all violations, any and all violations recorded or caught, fine will escalate.
While the federal government-owned airports battle for sanity, the Muritala Mohammed Airport 2 in Lagos, which is the first build, operate and transfer terminal, appears organized. What exactly is responsible for this?
We have a structure in place right from the top all the way to the bottom. And the structure we have is to ensure that everybody is actually doing their job based on, various units. We have different supervisors, we have different managers in charge of different units. When you think of an airport, people just think of a space where you can just come in, get on a flight and leave. But an airport really is a commercial space where we have other activities here.
214 from Accra. And just how much is technology driving the operations here?
Every part of our business has one software or the other that is driving it. Like in our cargo system, we have what we call cargo management system, which we use in processing cargo seamlessly. For passengers facilitations, for the airlines, we have what we call racer system, which helps the airline to process passengers right from the check-in desk onto when they enter aircrafts. We have the one we call Bagheera. Bagheera is used in scanning even hand luggage and baggage before they enter aircraft finally. And we also have a very world-class conveyor system, which presently we're even upgrading.
Perhaps the federal government-owned airports could borrow a leaf for operations at this private terminal. Away from this, fingers are also pointing in the way of multiple agencies operating at the international terminals as the reason for the high level of corruption. At this meeting, the managing director of the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria states his case.
Most of our challenges are with the armed agencies. The ones that are not armed are easier to control, to listen and obey the standard and recommended practices. Two of them at access points to enter the Hajj and Cargo Terminal, officers of the Nigerian Customs refused to come down and be screened. And when our personnel, the aviation security, insisted, they came down and assaulted aviation personnel, that is fan staff. I believe what is also adding to this is our problem of having too many agencies. When we have 10 agencies doing the same thing, I think it also opens the door for violations. It opens the door for corruptions.
We certainly cannot continue to condone unacceptable.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives says it's spearheading a major reform of the nation's international airports in support of the federal government's Ease of Doing Business initiative that would usher in a single security screening point for arriving and departing passengers at the nation's international airports. Budget carriers Frontier Group Holdings and Spirit Airlines have unveiled plans to merge in a $2.9 billion deal that would create the fifth largest U.S. airline and tighten competition against traditional carriers. The merger combines rock-bottom fares coupled with top-up charges offered by ultra-low-cost carriers. Such airlines are a tier below Southwest Airlines, which have pioneered the low-cost concept in the 1970s and have continued to expand during the COVID-19 pandemic at the expense of larger rivals.
Spirit and Frontier want to merge. They believe that combining will provide a better opportunity for them to compete. And I think it will. It will give the US a single, strong, coast-to-coast, low-fare airline that also has extensive service to the Caribbean and Latin America. And it positions the airline to potentially grow and serve more cities, both smaller markets as well as possibly routes like mainland to Hawaii. They're going to be looking for a lot of new places to fly.
The companies expect the cash and stock deal to accelerate investment and help take on major U.S. airlines like American Airlines Group, Delta Airlines, Southwest Airlines, and United Airlines Holdings. The Frontier Control business is expected to add 10,000 direct jobs by 2026, the company said, adding that they expect to deliver $1 billion in annual consumer savings and offer more than 1,000 daily flights to over 145 destinations. This president of the Atmosphere Research Group believes this merger is not the best.
One of the biggest concern I have about this merger is that neither Frontier Airlines nor Spirit have great customer service reputations. They're not good when it comes to reliability or punctuality, and when people have problems, they don't always handle those problems as well as they should. So I am concerned that putting together two airlines with bad customer service reputations could be bad for the customer, because then you have one very large airline with the potential to make a lot of people miserable.
The transaction value of the deal is $6.6 billion, including the assumption of net debt and operating lease liabilities. Colorado-based Frontier will own 51.5% stake in the combined entity, while the remaining 48.5% will be held by Spirit's shareholders. Away from airlines merger in the United States to the East African country of Ethiopia, where state carrier Ethiopian Airlines has flown the 737 MAX with passengers for the first time since the deadly crash of 2019. The airline's resumption of flights on the 737 MAX plane has divided opinions, since a crash nearly 3 years ago forced regulators to ground the fleet globally.
The past few days, it has been running a lot of test flights by our flight crew and flight engineers and flight mechanics. After we made sure everything is in order, now we are doing this demonstration public relation flight, a demo flight, so to speak. It is after this that we are availing it to commercial aviation.
In March 2019, a flight to Nairobi crashed in a field 6 minutes after takeoff from Ethiopia's capital Addis Ababa, killing all 157 passengers and crew. The accident followed another, which occurred 5 months earlier, when the same model crashed in Indonesia, killing 189 people. The accident exposed a problem with the system on the plane, and the model was grounded worldwide, costing Boeing some $20 billion and triggering court cases that exposed shortcomings with the certification process. Relatives of those killed in the Ethiopian Airlines crash were angered by the decision to resume flying the 737 MAX.
Personally, it's a decision that I'll never fly in a MAX. And certainly, if I find myself booked into a MAX, I'll have to cancel that flight. That is a decision I made, and I know other family members who have made similar decisions across the victims. Yes, because, and I have explained that, it is already an unstable plane. We should not be part of sanctification of something we know is wrong.
Ethiopian Airlines said in a statement that the decision to resume flights on the 737 MAX came after intense recertification by multiple regulatory bodies. The East African country is among the last countries to return the 737 MAX to service. It is already flying in the United States, Europe, and some other countries.
A flight simulator is a device that artificially recreates aircraft flights and the environment in which it flies for pilot training, design, or other purposes. It includes replicating the equations that govern how aircraft fly, how they react to applications of flight controls, and how the aircraft reacts to external factors such as air density, turbulence, and wind shear. In the East African country of Kenya, a Dash 8 Q400 simulator has been installed to help train pilots. It's a move its main user, Kenya's first low-cost airline, Jambojet, hopes will help it cut costs incurred by flying pilots abroad for training.
That's by international, the coordinates are correct.
The simulator in operation is based on a 2019 deal between FSI, Kenya Airways, and Jambojet. Kenya Airways is the country's national carrier, while Jambojet is its no-frills subsidiary. FSI is among the world's leading producers of flight simulators.
So do you see where this arrow is?
Chief pilot Michael Kwinga of Kenya low-cost airline Jambojet climbs into a newly operational Flight Safety International Dash 8 400 simulator. After the required checks and under the watchful eye of Flight Inspector Joseph Strong, Kwinga takes off.
As you can tell, if I'm training to go to Dubai International, I can actually do it over here.
Jambojet's new fleet of 5 de Havilland Canada DHC-8 aircraft, known as Dash 8 around the world, are critical parts of the regional airline strategy to recover from the job and pay cuts it had to make as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The blow to African airlines after the COVID-19 outbreak was forecast at $40 million by International Air Transport Association IATA last year. For Jambojet, the equipment is a cost saver.
Whenever the trainings are done outside, you end up having lower productivity because you have to the traveling time outside there, and even sometimes missing the slots. Sometimes to get the slots was quite difficult. So when it is in here, it brings in efficiencies.
Kwinga and his colleagues will continue to train for the 6 destinations they currently fly to, and the company is making plans to expand its routes. Jambojet began operations in 2014, and its simulator agreement is also open for business to other industry players. Within the vast grounds of the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos, Nigeria, the Reality Full Flight Simulator configured for the AW139 helicopter is installed at Carverton's Training Center. Here at the site acceptance event of the simulator, a French delegate and the Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority take the simulated flight, traveling through the world of technology to Marseille and back to Lagos. The Theos Reality H Full Flight Simulator Level D, which is one of the world's most advanced commercial helicopter simulator, will be used to provide superior scenario-based flight and mission training to AW139 helicopter operators across the African continent, as well as Carverton's pilots and crew. With this simulator, Carverton will deliver state-of-the-art training, including initial type rating, recurrent training, and proficiency checks for both visual flight rules and instrument flight rules, offshore and onshore missions, as well as VIP operations to unprepared landing sites. This simulator will enable pilots become certified to fly the AW139 on the various Civil Aviation Authority approvals. With this significant investment and with the support from Theos, a globally renowned company, we believe that the simulator will ultimately benefit our customers and increase accessibility to world-class flight simulation trading.
That's our program for this week. Do send your feedback to us on Aviation This Week at channelstv.com. Do have a wonderful day. I'm Bukola Joe Ketumbi.